everyone, my name is Alex Rockwell, and I'm going to share with you my responses to Module 1. A little bit about myself. I am a 4th grade math and science teacher at Dallastown Area Intermediate School in York, PA, and there's a picture there of my team. The 5 of us are a learning support team, which means that we have 4 homeroom teachers and 1 learning support teacher, and we split about 100 kids, and approximately 1/3 of them are diagnosed with a learning disability. So we've gotten really good at differentiating and adapting instruction for all of those students. My hobbies are reading. I love to read, and recently I've gotten into running. I've run 2 half marathons. The picture there is from this past April. My dad ran it with me, so that was awesome that I finally convinced him to run one with me. I graduated in 2014 from York College with degrees in middle level math education and early elementary education. I am currently in the master's program for assessment, curriculum, and teaching, and I have a concentration in STEM. So I'm not sure how much online teaching I'm actually going to be doing, but it is always nice to know a little bit about it. This is my 3rd course toward my master's. So far I've taken 1 course that was blended, and I loved the setup of that course. I thought it was great to have the online aspect and the face-to-face. And the class I just finished in summer 3 was strictly an online course, and it surprised me actually how much I enjoyed the setup of it. I was, afraid that I wouldn't get to know the other students, or, you wouldn't get to figure out what you had in common with them. And I was surprised how we did come together as a class. So I am definitely interested in taking more and learning more about online learning. Okay, as far as the questions, the first question I have is the one about the quote where the woman says, "Good teaching is good teaching, whether it is online or in a brick and mortar school." And when she first made the statement in the video, I immediately agreed with it. It made complete sense to me. I really liked this statement because she doesn't necessarily define what good teaching is. She just says, good teaching is good teaching. And I completely agree with that. I think that when you start teaching, you come up with your own personal definition of what it means to be a good teacher. For example, my personal philosophy is that good teaching happens when students love learning, and then learning the content and becoming engaged comes with that. So to me, good teaching is good teaching. If you can do that online, if you can do it in a brick and mortar school, then you're doing something right. So good teaching is good teaching. It doesn't matter if you're in a public school, private school, online, wherever you are teaching. Good teaching, it works. If it's good teaching, it will work. I can see, however, why this might be overgeneralized. I think that it might be too broad, because I think that anybody can latch on to that statement. What I think is good teaching, the person who teaches next door to me might think my teaching practices are horrible, but he or she might think that theirs are great, and for them, good teaching is good teaching. So it might be a little too broad because good teaching isn't necessarily defined. Question number 2 is about the challenges of teaching online and which ones I want to learn more about. The first one was definitely the student issues. A lot of the testimonials say that the teachers didn't really know what was going on with their students outside of the academic aspect. And I can definitely see why this would be a challenge, because I know that a large chunk of my day is dealing with things other than the content within my curriculum. So I'm curious, how do you approach that, or how do you deal with that? Or how do you even know something is going on if you're teaching them online? Sometimes when I'm teaching and I walk by a student who's normally very peppy and very upbeat, if they're feeling down and they're not themselves, I can tell that something happened and something's wrong. How do you know that, or how do you deal with that as an online teacher? So that's definitely a question that I have. The course content one also stood out to me. especially the part in the article where they said that sometimes the teachers aren't the creators of the lesson plans. I understand not being the creators of the curriculum, but as far as the lesson plans, I just don't know, how do you know what's working for your students? And I know that I teach 2 math classes a day, and a lot of times I teach them completely differently just based on the different learners that I have in my room. And that's because I am free to write my lesson plans as I please. So that was something that would be concerning to me as an online teacher is, if I'm given a lesson plan, how can I adapt it, or how can I make it work for the set of students that I have? This wasn't mentioned in the article, but I'm also curious about the social aspect of online schooling in general. And how or when do students learn what is socially appropriate? Because just like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the social appropriateness is taught in a brick and mortar school. That's where you're taught how to actively listen, how to play politely next to someone, or when it's appropriate to leave a conversation or to not just get up in the middle of class and go to the bathroom. And maybe that's an old-fashioned way to think, but I just think about my day teaching 9 and 10-year-olds, and a lot of my day is spent, especially this time of year, teaching social appropriateness. And I'm just curious about, when does that happen if students are online from kindergarten through 12th grade? The next question was about the quote, "To reduce our vulnerability, we disconnect from students, from subjects, and even from ourselves. We build a wall between inner truth and outer performance, and we play act the teacher's part." And then the question is, do I expect the same vulnerabilities and challenges to be part of online teaching? Honestly, I think that it becomes more of a challenge with online teaching because you don't have that get to know you time to make a connection with the students. And I understand why, as a teacher, we don't share everything about our personal lives outside of school, but many teachers do share things about if they have kids or if they went on vacation, things with those students to make that connection. And when students have a connection with the teacher, they're more likely to perform better for that teacher. So I just think that you would build up more of a wall with online teaching and disconnect more from them because you don't have that time to establish a rapport with them. I do it with my students in morning homeroom, in the hallways, at recess, or in the cafeteria. And you don't have that in an online school. So I think that you're even more disconnected, and it becomes more of a challenge to connect with your students in an online environment. The last question was about the advertisements of the online schools and how they fit and don't fit with those standards. First, actually, when I opened the document for the standards, I was expecting something like the standards aligned system that, the Common Core standards, and to open it up and see it was an evaluation, basically, of online teachers was a little bit of a shocker to me. The first one, the K-12 video, shocked me. I was a little confused because it seems as though they work one-on-one with students to create an individualized course plan for each student, working with the parents and the student. And do those students interact with other peers at all? Because that was one of the standards, was interacting with peers. So while that does support the standard about being cognizant of diversity of academic needs, doesn't really support the one about interacting with peers if they're on their own path doing their own thing. And along with that, a few of them don't exactly support that use data from assessments to modify content and guide student learning. It seems like in the ads they were using choice rather than assessment data. That they would say, you choose your course plan, or you choose this. It's almost reminding me of a Montessori school, actually, when they said that, because it was like, you can choose, or we'll work with you to make your own plan, instead of going off of assessment data and putting students in leveled classes or putting them where they need to be. The last one didn't really give much information about the school in general, other than the fact that they offer a lot of choice. So that one didn't seem to fit many of the standards just because it didn't really give a whole lot of information on it. All right, so thank you for listening to my response, and I look forward to our discussions.